morning slash afternoon slash evening slash what other thing there may be to everyone out there. And welcome to another edition of our Waypoints series here with Richard, who is going to be talking about the Android SDK, right?
Yeah.
And map objects of some sort. Important question: will there be cats involved in this presentation?
No, because this is my show and not your show. I think for cats, you have to watch Expedition, our other series, which Ray is doing.
So
There
no
might
cats.
be no cats, but there might
No
be
cats.
dinosaurs. So who knows?
Well, this has been a great show. Thank you for showing up. No, cool. So I'm gonna let you do your thing because I'm very curious to see what you have to show. My experience with Android has been primarily via Cordova, so I rarely use Android Studio. So I'm curious to see like what a real Android developer does. And
Oh, you want to see a real Android developer? Well, this has been a
yes.
nice show. Thank you for joining, everyone.
All right, man. Are you are live on CodeView, so
Okay.
take it away, man.
Okay, in that case, I'm just going to open up Android Studio. And if you joined us last time, then you might remember that we had, or the last two episodes, so in episode one, we had basically built a simple app that just shows a map, basically a little getting started. We went through two ways of getting started. And in the second episode, we looked primarily at how you can change the map style, make the map look a little bit different. We showed how to load a custom map style. We showed how to load some of the default map styles in the SDK. And we looked at the camera. So we looked at how can we set up the camera, what parameters are there, how do they work. I used my garage door opener as a camera to show some things off, which was a surprise hit, which still confuses me. People still send me comments about my garage door opener, and I don't know what's going on with that. And now that we basically know how to display a map and how to change the way the map looks and how to change the way we look at the map, now we can maybe put some things on the map. And that's really what map objects means. What that means is basically things like map markers and how do you draw lines and polygons and so on the map. And that's really the plan for today is we're going to get some markers going on the map. Oh, somebody redeemed dinosaur mode. So basically, Peter explained to me that he set this thing up where if somebody spends those weird points you're getting, which by the way I'm getting, I just clicked and got a bonus of 100 points. I don't know what. I have to show my screen background and explain what the dinosaur of the week is. Since Jitin did that, I'm going to have to do that. So we're going to have to interrupt the interesting stuff already to talk about dinosaurs. Though to be fair, these aren't dinosaurs, so it's kind of cheating. These are actually creatures that lived before the dinosaurs. They're called Robertia, and they're basically sort of they lived in the Permian age, and they were kind of really tiny little reptiles that were a little bit mammal-like, and they lived before the dinosaurs. There was some overlap, but then essentially at some point dinosaurs took over. This is the prettiest way I've ever seen someone depict Robertia. Like these are super tiny. They're like 15 centimeters long. And usually when somebody draws them, it's like a hairy, naked mole rat and kind of disgusting and not really cool. This artist has found a really kind of cute way to depict them, and I think these are kind of adorable. And that concludes dinosaur mode because we have a lot of content to go through on the Android SDK. So I'm gonna go back up here, and where was I? Yeah. So what we want to do is we want to maybe just start by adding a simple map marker to the map. And if you remember the app that we built last time, I'm going to fire this up here. I'm going to toss this into the emulator. This is going to be, okay, that's encouraging. Off to a very good start. This, by the way, is the authentic Android Studio experience. In case you were wondering, Ray.
It sounds as good as the Xcode experience.
It is. I think they're both terrible in their own unique ways. Yes. So I'm going to close the emulator. I'm gonna rebuild this thing. Let me see if I've got the right one open. I think I have the right one open, so we're going to rebuild this just in case. I spent hours today with something I thought was a bug, but really was just Gradle Sync not properly working. Back in the day when Android Studio was a little newer, I always used to hit Gradle Sync 3 times in a row just to make sure it worked. And at some point I stopped, and today I've learned to do that again. So we're going to restart the emulator. He's trying to install. We'll see what happens. I haven't really changed the app since last time. The only thing different I did is that I added 2 additional buttons. And I'm like, come on, Android Studio. Maybe it just takes forever to start here. I don't know. We'll look at code first, and hopefully we'll get the emulator to run. If not, this is going to be an interesting episode. So we can look at what we did. Really, last time we loaded a map scene, and then we had a method called change style, where we went through some basic map styles. We had a load style method where we loaded a custom style. And then we had a method change camera where we kind of cycled through various camera options and looked at those. And those were all basically just tied to 3 buttons I had on the, oh, what's going on? Android emulator. You know, maybe I'm just gonna restart all of this, see what happens there. Yes, terminate, we'll terminate everything. Stop this. Oh, maybe it was just turned off.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so there's, okay.
Have you tried turning it off and on again?
It's not even going to, oh my God. Okay, cool. And you see this is what happened last time, and all I've done since then is I've added 2 buttons, and that's it. And we're gonna do something with those buttons. And I think the first button we want to turn into a button that adds a map marker to the map. So let's look at this. We've got button 4 here. This is still wired up to the change style method, so the whole thing compiles. We're going to call it marker, or have the text marker on it, and then we're going to just have a method add marker here. And then we're going to add that method, public void add marker. Got to pass a view, even though we won't use it because otherwise it doesn't work. So to add a marker, we got to do a couple of things. First, we have to create a map image, because the marker has to have a look, and we need an image for that. The next thing we got to do is we got to create the map marker itself. And then finally, we got to add the marker to the map. Got to be very careful not to spill my tea here, because my teacup is still very full. So the trick is to spill your tea later in the episode, and then the catastrophe isn't so large. Okay, create map image. So there is conveniently a class map image. And we can create one of those, and then we can say, not saying new map image, because what there is something called a map image factory, which helps us get map images. In this case, you can do this from file, you can do this from bitmap, but the best way, I guess, is to do it from a resource. And we're going to say our drawable, and then maybe we'll say something of point of interest, but of course we don't actually have that in here. I haven't added that yet. So if we look into the drawable thing, that doesn't exist. So what we're going to do is we're going to, oh no, we've got this here. So I've got some POI images here. I'm just going to grab one of those. Let's say POI medium. I don't know exactly what size that is. I'm going to copy that in here. I'm going to try copying that in here again, because Android Studio. There we go. And then we're going to call this POI medium. So now we've got a map image created. By the way, is the font big enough? I think it's still the bigger font from last time, but I'd rather double check.
Looks okay to me, but obviously anybody in the stream, just speak up and I'll tell Richard.
Okay. So Kubera speaking says, I can almost hear the fan of your PC at the moment. No, you're not actually hearing the fan of my PC. You're hearing the fan of the PC of my wife, who's sitting opposite from me and who's currently curing cancer using artificial intelligence, whereas I'm streaming on Twitch. And you can sort of figure out who's the smart one in the family. And that, of course, this sort of stuff, getting complaints from the other side of the table. So this is what you're hearing. And obviously, running neural networks or whatever she does taxes her PC slightly more than streaming on Twitch, and Android Studio does mine. Though Android Studio is, as always, doing its best to make sure. Okay, let me see. From resource cannot be applied. Oh yeah, we got to do this. Get resources, and then I think that works, right? Yeah. Okay. And that also means I can't turn that off. I can't do that. So just enjoy the sound of science and healing coming from the other side. That's because that's what that is. Okay, so mapping. So now the next step is we've got to create a map marker, and there is a convenient map marker object, and we can call that map marker, and that we are doing with new map marker. And what that needs is geocoordinates, because we got to know where the marker is. And for that, what we usually do is we go on maps.here.com, and since our map is on New York, it's conveniently still here. Let's go to the very tip here of one of those piers and grab the latitude and longitude from that.
It'd be kind of cool if you could just say whatever the center of my screen is.
If you could just say what the center of my screen is, I don't understand. The center of the
map. So wherever the center of your map on screen is, that would be where the marker would show up.
Okay, that sounds like the sort of thing I should build in home office hours.
All right.
I think tomorrow we've got Vidhan on the stream. He's gonna show off something he built, which is I think also an Android kind of project. But maybe the week after, the two of us can sit together and we can just build that as a tool for the future, and then we can use that in our own streams. It's going to make our lives better, and I've got content for home office hours. Mm-hmm. Sounds like fun. Why am I getting squiggles here? Marker. Yes, because I forgot we also have to add the map image. Okay, now all we have to do is add the marker to the map. So we've created a map image, we've created a map marker, we've given it coordinates where the marker is, and we've given it a map image, what the marker looks like. And then we can say map view, get map scene. We still know this from last time. And then we can say add map marker, and we're saying map marker as the parameter. And then we're kind of already done with adding a marker. Let's run this and see if that does anything. Taking a sip of tea while Android Studio takes its time. It's sweet, sweet time.
It's quality time, enterprise time.
Okay, something's happening. New app is starting. Okay. The white screen was there for a little too long, just enough to make me nervous, but we see here I have a marker button. Let's see what happens if I click it. Yay. Hooray, we've got a marker. Medium is maybe a slightly large marker. I know that Ray has a thing for markers when markers are too large, but we've got a marker on the map. We can zoom into this maybe a little bit. And we see one of the things about a marker is it does not scale with the map, right? We zoom the map in and out, and the marker stays the same. It stays at the same spot, but the size doesn't change. So here's an interesting thing, though. I said it stays at the same spot, but as I rotate the map, we can actually see that the bottom of the pin actually moves about and changes. And that's because by default, the anchor for the map image is right in the middle. So getting out my pen and drawing a little bit. Come on, move here, be nice. So if you imagine you've got, this is kind of your image, and in it you've got like a map marker, and I'm super good at drawing, especially with a mouse. Then what you don't want is what you have right now is where the map anchor is in the middle. So basically what that means is that the image will be centered on the position that we put in as a geocoordinate. But what we in this, and this is fine if, for example, you have a round map pin with like a hole in the middle. This is what you'd want. But what you actually want in this case is you want the map anchor to be at the bottom, and the whole image to be slightly above the moved above the geocoordinate that we're putting in. So what we have to do is we have to move the map anchor, and basically this is set as the top left is 0, 0. My zeros always look like reverse, like deltas or something, but you can imagine this. And then the bottom right is 1, 1. So by default, the map anchor is set to 0, 5, 0, 5. And in this case, the little bottom actually goes right to the bottom of the image. So what we want is to have the anchor here. So we want to set the map anchor to 0, 5, 1. So we want to move the image a little bit up. I'm going to clear this. Yeah.
You had said no cats, but I clearly see a cat on the bottom right corner. Those are cat ears, definitely.
All right, we're going to give it a smile.
Perfect.
Because cats always smile while they're planning how to kill you. So this is so we've got cat content too. We've got non-dinosaur, almost dinosaur content. We've got cat content. This is shaping up to be an excellent episode. Let me see, what on earth was the way to clear the screen? That was the way to clear the screen. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to have to add an anchor. And we're going to do that before we create the map marker. So that is another parameter we add to the map marker. And so we're saying create anchor. And there is an anchor 2D class. This anchor 2D, so we're not particularly imaginative. We're saying new anchor 2D. And then all we put in is, like I said, it should be 0.5f, comma 1.0f, because these are floats. And then we can add another parameter at the end here. In addition to map image, we can do anchor 2D. And let's run this. I think these awkward pauses are why Peter has recently suggested we should play background music while doing this. Let's hit the map marker. Map marker shows up. We're zooming in. Let's try rotating, and we can see now the bottom of the pin stays in the same spot the whole time. So we've added an anchor to it, and now it looks as it is supposed to look. Okay, some success, pretty easy. So markers aren't the only objects you can add to the map. You can also add polylines, polygons, and circles. Let's do a polyline. So let's public void add polyline. The obvious use case for something like a polyline, for example, is to draw a route on the map, right? You've called a routing API, you've gotten back a line, a polyline, and what was I going to say? And then we can draw the line on the map based on the route. So we've got a method add polyline, and in order to do this, we first have to create a geopolyline.
Hey, Richard.
Sound like you have a question.
Yes, Palermo is asking.
Yes.
To make sure I understand, 0.5 f equals 50% across and 1.0 f equals 100% down.
Yes, that is correct. Or no, yes, on the second parameter, right? On the first parameter it's halfway across, and 1f means 100% on the right. Yeah. So it's basically just an XY coordinate system with a scale. What's interesting about this, you are not restricted to just going 0 to 1. You can actually do more. So if you, for example, if you wanted the icon to float above the anchor point, move it even higher, you can get moves that make the second parameter. You can do that for 2, in that it would be the whole image height again moved higher. So you can play with these parameters too and see what happens when you sort of go outside of that boundary box. That's absolutely an option. Okay, so we got to create a geopolyline. A geopolyline is essentially the geometric information for the polyline, so all of the points that we want the polyline to go through. And then we have to, based on that, create a map polyline. The map polyline is the actual map object we can then add to the map. So this is the visual representation of the geopolyline. And then again, we need to add that to the map. So let's start with a geopolyline. In order to create a geopolyline, we first need an array list of geocoordinates. Enter geocoordinates. We're calling that polyline coordinates. And we're just saying new array list. Moving my T away. I'm really nervous around my T today. I don't know why. I can just feel it spilling. Array list. So, and now we've basically got to say we polyline coordinates dot add new geocoordinates. Let's say we can, let's just do 4 of those so we don't spend too much time on the map. So let's just get like some things here. Copy paste that in here. We'll get something here. Copy paste that in here. We'll get something here. Paste that here, and then we'll move up a little further and copy paste that. Maximum again. Okay, so we have a list of coordinates, and then we have to create a geopolyline. And now we are saying geopolyline equals new geopolyline, and we're passing the polyline coordinates into it. Now here's the problem. This needs a try-catch block, because what you could potentially do is you could just feed it an array list with nothing in it, or with just 1 point in it. In order to do a polyline, you need to have 2 polylines. So if you're feeding it the wrong stuff, it could, why is it complaining? Ah, yes, unhandled exception. Yes, I'm working on it, Android Studio. Come on, don't make me nervous. Android Studio is very, very, very eager to talk to you about all of your errors, even before you finish writing your code. Like, you put a new variable in and he's immediately like, alert, you're not using this yet. And I'm like, of course I'm not. I've literally just written down the variable name. Okay, I'm going to stop ranting on Android Studio. And then we have So we got to catch I got to look into my notes. I think it is an instantiation error exception, which kind of makes sense actually. Instantiation error exceptions, we're calling that E. And now I'm going to do something terrible because I don't want to deal with this, and that's not really the thing we care about. I'm just setting this to null, which obviously you wouldn't want to do. You wouldn't want to do some proper error handling and kind of stop doing this here and say that something is wrong instead of plowing on. But error handling is not really what Waypoints is about. We want to learn about the polyline. So yes, I know. Please don't tell me. Don't add me. And the other thing we need to define the style. I kind of forgot that here, really. So let's say define the style of the polyline. What we need to do essentially is we got to give it a width in pixels, and we got to give it a color. So let's get a float and say width in pixels. And Ray, I'm going to let you pick how many pixels wide this is.
200.
Okay. Note yourself, never let Ray do anything like this again. And then we're going to go for a color, and we're going to call that line color. And
green.
Notably, okay, we can do that. Notably, you'll see that there's two color things. There's the color from Android graphics, and then there's a color in the SDK itself. In this case, we want the color from the SDK itself. So com.here.sdk.core color, not Android graphics color. Confusingly, I think later on I'll be using the Android graphics color as well. Palermo saying something. Mobile Padawan says, can we make general questions about HERE Maps SDK or just limited to Android Studio? You can ask any question you like. Dinosaurs, cats, Android Studio, Android SDK. If we can find the time to answer the question here and it makes sense for the audience, we'll absolutely endeavor to do that. There may also be some people from the SDK team actually lurking in chat. At least they promised they would. So even if I can answer the question, maybe they can answer the question in chat for me, which would be cool. And now they're never coming back. Okay, color, line color. So this basically needs a new color. And this is basically RGBA. So we'll just put in 4 numbers. I've written the numbers in my notes here. 72, 218, 208, and because we don't want it to be transparent, we're doing 255. And I'm probably getting the red squiggles because these are shorts, and if you don't put short in front of it, Android Studio is like, well, you can lose precision, what are you doing? So we're doing a little short in front of that. And that should actually be green. Well, I think officially it's aqua. It's one of our official corporate colors, which I looked up earlier. And then we have to create the map polyline. So we're saying map polyline. We're just calling that map polyline equals new map polyline. And we are passing in the geopolyline. How do I look like? We're passing in the width in pixels. How wide do I look? And we're passing in the color to see how we do this. And we see, yes, Android Studio is complaining, geopolyline might be null. It won't be, and if it is, we'll fix it. And then the final thing we have to do is, again, map view, get scene, get map scene, add, in this case, we're saying add map polyline, and we're giving it the polyline we want to add. And I think I still need to wire add polyline up to the second button. We're calling that button polyline, and then we're going to call the method add polyline, and then we should be able to see something happen. Take a sip of tea. Okay, clicking on polyline. Well, it is in fact 200 wide.
Like a big smudge.
At least it's not hard to see, and for demonstration purposes, that's really a good thing. We can add the marker too, so we're seeing two things at the same time, so that works pretty well. You can also add map polygons, and that works pretty much exactly the same, except that you replace everything that says line here with gone. And I think it's not a line color, it's a fill color, and there's no width in pixels, but otherwise, as long as you replace line with gone, you're getting a polygon added to the map. And there's also a circle, which is exactly the same, only simpler. Got to put in a radius and those kind of things. So I think that's kind of boring, so I'm not going to repeat this multiple times over, so you can see the other ones. They work essentially the same. There's another thing that is really cool. I have not really practiced that one beforehand because I had some issues with Cradle Sync. Thank you, Android Studio. But we're going to try this anyway because this is Twitch and it's live, and what could possibly go wrong? What you can do is you can pin a view to the map. And when I say view, I really mean an Android view. So what you can do is you can grab any kind of Android view, you can build that, and you can pin that on the map as kind of a map object. It works slightly differently, and we're going to try this. We're going to say public void. Let's call it pin view. And that here, we're going back to the button. I've only got 2 buttons. Why do I have only 2 buttons? Oh, I only have 2 buttons because I wasn't sure whether I was going to do the pin view. So we're just going to create a new button, calling add pin. We're calling it pin. Did we call it add pin? Pin view is not a good name. We're calling it add pin. That's better. Okay. Public void. I think we forgot to. So the view, we don't want the view, but we got to pass it anyway. So really for that, what we have to do is we have to create an Android view. So we'll just start with something simple like a text view. We're saying text view, calling it text view, and saying new text view. I'm saying text view a lot. This just needs the context. And then we're saying text view. We can set the background resource or background color. Set background color. Let's say R color. I have no idea what the default things are. Let's go with primary dark. See if that works. Oh, wait, and then we say, or actually maybe we'll just skip the background and we'll just give it text view set text color, and then we're doing r dot color dot, we're going with primary for that one. It doesn't work. Should pass resolved color instead of resource ID here. What does it want from me? Okay, see, this is where I need to use the Android colors, and it doesn't quite work. Okay, we can, I remember Android, graphics, color. This is where we're going to use the other color. And then we can say parse color and just give it like a, I don't know what anything is. I'll just go with black. That's boring. If Ray, if you have an interesting color you want me to put here, let me know. And then we're saying, well, you got to give me the code for that. The hex
Pink.code. I don't know.
Okay, maybe we can make it pink later if we have a little bit more time.
It'd be a light red color, right? So RGB like 100.00. Oh, that'd be darker.
No, so we'll just go FF00. That should be very, very red.
Yeah.
FF00. Do I actually do 00 again? Is it? No, I think it's just those. That should work. And set text, and then we say dinosaurs rock. And now we basically have a view object. And this should already work, but I'm going to do a little more to show you that you can you can really do any Android view. So we're going to do a linear layout, adding that real quick. Actually, I'm going to be lazy. I'm going to copy that over from my notes because it's not super exciting content to see me type just Android view stuff. And then we can do, so we created a linear layout. Let's maybe not, it's whatever, color primary should be different than a black or red or whatever we picked there. We're putting some padding on it, and then we're adding the view, text view to the linear layout. And then all we need to do is call map view and say pin view, and then pass that the view. Got to pass it geo coordinates as always, and we're gonna have to grab some coordinates for this, and maybe we're gonna do it somewhere in the middle here. Grabbing some coordinates here, putting them in there, and then that should be it. So really, if you have a map view, if you have any Android view, you can just call map view pin view, give it some coordinates, and it should work. And then let's see if that actually works. Marker polyline pin. Hooray! So it says dinosaur rocks in like, it's not really pink. So how do we get red to be more pink? What other color do we have to?
So Peter Gula and Tex shared the RGB for that.
Ooh, that's excellent. Thank you, Peter. Run this. There you go. Actually, nice. It looks on the black background now, it looks almost aesthetically pleasing, which is why we're going to add the massive polyline to it and the marker so that it lives up to my usual design standards of impressive hideousness.
Impressive hideousness. I love that.
Okay. Try waypoints catch, finally do nothing. And I don't think okay. We've moved past that, so I'm going to ignore good advice as usual. Cool. So we have multiple different types of objects we added to the map. We added the map markers based on an image. We learned about anchoring. We added the map polyline, and this, of course, if you go and you zoom in and out, you see that unlike the markers, that scales with the map, right? That is kind of attached to the map and scales up down with it. The view and the map image do not. And then we have the dinosaur rocks text view in a linear layout, and you can imagine doing all kinds of things with that. You can add controls to the map. Or you can click, maybe you can do something like click on a marker and then have additional information displayed on the map, all kinds of cool things. So because you can do this, will behave like any other Android view, except that it'll be attached to the map. And I think that's a pretty powerful feature, and you can do some really cool stuff with that. Okay, speaking of clicking on, we have a little bit of time left. And so maybe what we can do is we can do kind of a very common use case is when you have markers, you probably want to go and you want to tap on them. And then maybe something should happen. Maybe you get additional information about the place or something like that. And for that to work, we got to look a little bit at gestures. So we're going to create a new method. We're saying public void set tap gesture handler. And to handle any kind of gestures, things like tapping on the map or swiping on the map or moving on the map, we're going to use the gestures class, which we can get from the map view through get gestures. And get gestures has a lot of different of these events. So tapping is one. The zooming you've seen me do. The two-finger zoom gesture that I've kind of awkwardly simulating here with the mouse on the emulator, that is one of those. the two finger swiping that kind of tilts the map here is one of those. And as you can see, quite a few of them already have a default action attached to them, right? So the two finger swipe tilts the map. If I swipe on the map, I'm moving the map around. Tap by default does not have any action associated with it, so we can still do that. But you can also turn the default values for everything off. So if you want to make, and then change that yourself. So if you want to make a map that's really annoying, which swipes in the wrong direction, where it goes left, if you swipe left and the other way around and everything, you could do that. And people would love you for it. Or maybe not, but you have those options. But in this case, it's easy because the tap gesture that we want to do hasn't been overridden by default. So we can just do our thing with it. And it says set tab listener, and then we're saying new tab listener. And all of these gestures, they basically work with listeners whenever. So you can listen to those like a tap event or a swipe event, and you're getting your listener gets informed whenever you do that. So in this case, we have an on tap method that gets called every time somebody taps. This point to D is called point to D. This is in pixel space on the screen, and it's essentially where you touch the screen, which is why I'm going to rename that to touch point so it's a little more clear. And now that we're in this here, now we know somebody has tapped the screen on that particular place. We can go to the map view, and we can say pick map items. And pick map items can then take that touch point as a parameter. So basically it's a method that picks map items for us, as the name says, based on the parameters we put in. And in this case, we're saying it, please pick the map items, which is things like markers and polylines, at the point I'm putting in. And then the second is a radius in pixels. So for example, if you want to have a large radius around the finger when somebody taps the screen, you can set that to larger. 2 is a reasonable default. And then you gotta pass it a callback, which is, what's it called? Map view base pick map items callback. Kind of a reasonable name. Pick map items callback, because it's pick map items. So once we do that, we get a list of items that it's picked for us. So we can really we can set this up as a list of map markers. Map marker, so list map marker, alt enter. And we are saying, calling this map marker list, and we're saying new list. And actually we can just do it easier. We can say pick map item result dot get markers. So this pick map item result is the return we're getting here, and you can tell it to get markers. You can also tell it to do things like get polylines and so on. So you can get all of the results, but in this case we're only interested in markers, so we're saying get us the markers. And then we can say map marker list dot get 0, just the first result. Now, in our case, there will only be one result, the way we've done it now, because we've only put one marker on the map. But in reality, you might have a bunch of markers that you've added to the map. You won't often be in a situation where you just have one marker on the map. And depending on the zoom factor and the density of the markers, you might have a bunch of these markers overlapping. Just imagine this scenario here now. I've zoomed out, and I have overlapping 3 things. I've got the polyline, I've got the map marker, and I've got the pin view. And if I tap somewhere here, it would really hit all 3 map items in this spot. So since we're only asking for markers, it would still only be 1 because it's ignoring the other ones, but we can just get the 1. Now, obviously, in reality, what you probably want to check is that this isn't null. Again, it's not the interesting stuff. We're skipping this. And then we can do something, and we're just calling this a map marker, let's say picked marker, because it's the marker we picked. And then we can do something with that. This brings me to another point that I wanted to show you about markers, is that you can add metadata to a marker. So any marker, you can just basically throw key value pairs in there of any kind. And this can be useful for a bunch of reasons. Imagine you are populating your map with markers based on points of interest you've grabbed from the Places API. You can now go and store the place ID, the unique place ID you're getting from the Places API inside that marker. And so when somebody taps that marker, you can then grab that place ID, you can call the Places API and get all of the information about that place live in that moment, and then maybe throw that into a view and pin that to the map in that spot, and then kind of the marker expands into nice information on the point of interest that you clicked on. So let's do that. Let's go up to our marker and actually go and say, let's add a little bit of add metadata to it. And there is a metadata class, creating a metadata object, new metadata, and then we're saying meta.setString. You can set various things. We're going with a string, and then we have a simple key value pair, and we're calling the key dino, and we're calling the value Stegosaurus. And then we're just having to say, once you've created the map marker, we're saying map marker.set metadata meta. So now nothing has really changed, except that the marker knows that it has this little additional information on it. And when we've clicked on it, we can now go here and we can access that information after having clicked on it. So we can say, if map picked marker, get metadata. If let's go metadata meta, and let's say that equals picked marker get metadata. Makes it a little easier. And then if meta isn't null, well, let's say if meta is null, and then we'll do an else if meta dot get, what is this? Get string dino. So we're getting the value for the dino key, and we're saying if that equals Stegosaurus, and we're maybe saying let's throw a toast on the screen. Toast equals I haven't done a toast in a while. I think it's toast make text. We need the context, which I should have set up as a nice variable earlier. And I think you need a text and a time. You found a hidden Stegosaurus, and then I think it needs to be toast length short, and then we're saying toast show. And we
just keep saying toast. That's lovely.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm already it's closing in on dinner time, and I'm already getting hungry as I'm speaking. It's certainly more interesting to say toast over and over again than to say text view over again.
Okay.
And then we can say, if there's nothing in there, no Stegosaurus. Here, sad face. Okay. So we can try two things. We can try now, if we run this, if the picking of the marker worked, if we set up a correct tap listener, and we can check if we set up the metadata correctly, and we can access that. And I wrote way too much code in between testing the application, so this can't possibly go well. Okay, we'll hit, oh yeah, this can't work because I never called the actual method set tap gesture handler, which Android is letting me know by making this a sad gray, or Android Studio. So what we want to do is once we've created the marker and added that to the map, we can actually call that set tap gesture handler. Starting that again. We can hit the marker so it appears. Then we can hit the marker. You found a hidden Stegosaurus. So tapping works, should work repeatedly. If we add another marker to it that doesn't have that metadata, we should get the other message, but that's not really interesting because it's just copy pasting another error. So I think that's all I had for today. Oh, one last thing I think that's still important is you should also be able to remove objects. And in this case, what you can do is basically just map view, get map scene, and you can say remove map marker and say pick marker here. And this is how you remove objects with the remove map marker, remove polyline, and so on methods. And it might be a good idea for you to group your markers in lists and so on, so you can more quickly and easily delete the objects you've created later on. In this case, it's easy because we got a reference to the picked marker through tapping on it. So if we start this again now, not only should we get a Stegosaurus toast, we should also get the marker removed from the map because we're keeping the Stegosaurus. These dinosaurs are cool. Boom. So you found a hidden Stegosaurus and we took it and the marker is gone. So we learned how to create map markers, map items. I think they used to be called map objects in the old SDK. So I kept, I think, throwing map items and map objects around confusingly. And we did map markers, we did polylines, we talked about polygons, and we talked about circles. We added a view to the map, which is really cool. I just had a super simple example here, but there's a lot of cool things you can do with that. I already have some ideas. I think we'll do some stuff with it later in the season. We talked a little bit about setting up gesture handlers. I think this is also something that will keep coming up, and we'll do more of it later in the season. We set a tap listener, and from the tap listener, we grabbed map items, and then we did something with metadata. We realized we can store some metadata in a map marker, and we pulled that out. And we also learned to remove all the annoying markers and things we put on the map. And that's all we have for today. And this might be the first time an episode of Waypoints ends on time.
Because I'm very efficient. That's my thing.
I mean, I will say that when Peter starts an episode, he talks for 10 minutes. I mean, there's a lot of useful information there, and it's good for me. I get to ease in. And when I do an episode with Ray is like, I've set this up, I've got this running, my work is done. Cat joke, off you go. And then
That's
I'm
it.
like, I haven't even had time to sip my tea. So maybe I'm not actually to blame for the Waypoints episode running over. Yes, I think that's great. We should blame Peter. He's not here right now.
He's not here. All right, so all in favor? Okay, Peter's fault.
Excellent. See, this is a productive episode. We learned a lot of stuff and blamed Peter. Cool.
And so I think Peter's actually really good about talking about the schedule. And I know I failed at that. You mentioned we have another stream tomorrow, right?
Yes, we do.
And that's with Vidan?
Yes, that's home office hours with Vidan, which is, I think, going to be a challenge for us to set that up. It's going to be slightly different, and we're going to have to wrangle Streamlabs a little more, but I'm optimistic we'll get it done. And once we get it done, I think we'll be good to go until Peter, who we've just unfairly blamed for something, will hopefully return despite that.
All right, yeah, cool. So that was wonderful. Thank you, Richard.
Well, thank you, Ray, and thank you everyone for coming and for commenting. Shall we do some plugging? I mean, we plugged tomorrow's episode of Home Office Hours. the schedule has been thrown a little bit into disarray. Usually we're doing this one on Monday, and last week's home office hours was on a different day. Or can you do lots of public holidays? But thank you for coming anyway.
Yeah, and I have to do one. I haven't done one. I've been
Okay, that's
hosting.
good. That's good.
And what I'll do is I will talk to you before tomorrow's stream, and we can make a date. And tomorrow you can announce when I'm doing mine, if that makes sense.
Okay, that makes sense. Yes. So there is going to be a stream at an undetermined time in the future, but we have a determinate time in the future when we know when that indeterminate time will also become determinate, and that'll be tomorrow in the home office hour stream.
Cool.
Okay, I'm gonna do one more too, just so this does run over time after all, and we're not breaking with hallowed traditions. I've done a little blog post. Oh, we're not sharing screen. Go back to dinosaur mode.
Yep. Give me a second.
And I want to share that in chat.
And it is back.
Excellent. So if watching a full hour of waypoints is sometimes a little much for you, I'm going to start doing blog posts that kind of sum up these episodes as well on our developer blog. And the first one's just come out, which is about how to get started with the Android SDK. So if you've never built your first SDK, this blog post really is the fastest way to do it. And this is not. I'm not promising too much here. You really can do this in under 5 minutes. There's just 4 steps, and I've got an embedded video from Michael to help you sign up if you got issues with that. Lots of screenshots. There's a wonderful screenshot of my terminal with my plesiosaurs, which is very pleasing to me. And of course, then at the end, you can still watch Waypoints episode 1, which, by the way, maybe another plug. Those are available on YouTube. Now. Yep. So the first episode is available on YouTube. The second episode is available on YouTube if you want to catch up, or if you missed something because of the crazy schedule or something else, you can always find these. I think after 2 weeks, we're putting them on YouTube. And that's what I got.
Yes. I had something to say, but it was very important. Oh, yes. You're under 5 minutes. I am going to call you out on that. That's after you've downloaded Android Studio and set up your first simulator, because that can be
be
a process. That's from my Cordova days. I remember that was like, wow. Like,
yes,
if you're giving
a
present.
Also, every time you start Android Studio, it downloads a 3 GB update. Like every time. I don't know how they do that. It is magic. Though I think it's not how to build your first Android app in under 5 minutes. It's how to build your first Android app with a map in it in 5 minutes. So it does assume you've set up Android Studio, you've cursed at it, you've got your morning coffee, only to realize you can't work until 5 GB download is done. All those wonderful rituals that are part of the authentic Android Studio experience.
Yeah. Cool. So on that note, I'm gonna wrap things up, and I've already said thank you to you. Thank you to everybody in the room watching us. And catch us tomorrow.
Yeah, and I think half an hour later than today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
See you then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.